Good morning. Today we are at the beautiful Antelope Island State Park. Not only is it one of my favorite places in Utah, but it's one of my favorite places basically anywhere. Today we are filming, you gotta be careful with words, can't use shoot here, filming the great American bison. I absolutely love that animal. And I've just realized that I've made a grave mistake on my timing of coming here because it happens to be that 2-week span where thousands upon thousands of spiders take over the island. And I hate spiders. Like once you see one, you can't help but see all of the webs. There are webs everywhere and it's only gonna get worse. Today's video is not about making you a better, more cinematic wildlife filmmaker. I have no business doing that. I'm not a pro myself. Instead, today is specifically like if you are looking for a cinema camera to film wildlife, why you should be looking at RED, more specifically the RED Komodo-X. Also, I'm going to be taking you through my best practices so that when I go out to a place like this and film, I get the best footage I possibly can. All right, let's dive into it. Why would you buy a RED to begin with? More specifically, the KX, of course. Well, first of all, there's the image. I think there's a reason why every great wildlife documentary has been made on a RED. I mean, the image is absolutely gorgeous. The color is undeniably good. There is a weight to that image that I find my other cameras just don't have. And it's hard to explain. I've tried to explain this before. To me, it's kind of like a band. Some bands have a bigger sound, like Rush. Rush only had 3 members, but they sounded so much bigger. Well, I feel the same way about the RED image. There's just like a depth and a texture to it that I just can't find with my other cameras. Number 2 kind of goes along with that, and that's just the codec. The R3D, the RED RAW codec, is hands down the best codec out there. Number 3, when we're talking specifically about the RED Komodo-X, it does have a smaller sensor. It's technically an APS-C sized sensor, but that is actually kind of an advantage. You see, when you're filming wildlife, you've got to bust out these huge long lenses, and the bigger and the longer you go, the more expensive those lenses get. Well, when you downsize that sensor, you're getting more reach out of that lens than you normally would. So for me, that 150 to 600 that I'm shooting on actually becomes a 800, a little over 800 in the regular 6K mode, and it more than doubles in the 4K mode, because whenever you're shooting with RED and you drop down in resolution, you window into that sensor. So you can get almost a 1200 mil, well, more than a 1200 mil off of that camera with a 600 mil lens. Not too long ago, I was able to use the Canon RF 1200 millimeter on my KX. We came out here and shot. That lens itself was $20,000. And the lens I'm currently shooting on is $1,000. So it's a great way to save a ton of money on glass. The next one is the sensor itself. It's a global shutter sensor as opposed to a rolling shutter sensor. That means it is capturing the entire image all at once. It's not doing it line by line. And so I've found for when I'm like tracking an animal, let's say we get one of those pronghorns out here and it's at a full gallop, as I'm panning, there's no warping at all. It just looks so much more natural. Also, if I decide to take some stills from that image, I just find there to be less judder in the image, which is nice. And finally, something that doesn't get nearly enough press is that when you stabilize RED Komodo and RED Komodo-X footage in post, it's so much smoother. I don't know what it is about having a global shutter, but when you stabilize KX footage in post, it is so smooth. Also, the body is just so small and compact. Like when you are out lugging all of these huge lenses around and your backpack and your big tripods, like that's a lot of weight. So if you can keep the form small and compact and relatively lightweight, it's just nice. It is so easy to pack around. I have handed my wife my KX and she's been able to film no problem. It's got the easiest learning curve of any camera I've ever used. And exposing the camera is just so simple. The stoplights, it's ingenious. Is one clipping? Bring it down. It's not clipping, you're good to go. RED is known for high resolution and high frame rate. And when you're filming wildlife, those are the two things you definitely want more of. 6K up to 80 frames a second, which is phenomenal. And then you 4K up to 120, 2K up to 240. And now with some of the AI post-processing, you can take that 120 frames a second and stretch it out and make it look like it was 600 frames a second. Going back to the body, this is a more recent one, but honestly, Nikon buying RED is huge because now we have the Z mount on the KX. And what does this do? Well, it does a few things. One, now it opens up RED to using Nikon's extensive storied super telephoto lenses. Like Nikon is known for fast action, wildlife, and sports, and they have incredible glass. So now you could throw that glass on a KX. Also, if you want to adapt and you're coming from Sony, now you can use Sony glass on the Z mount. The second part of that is autofocus. And with Nikon at the helm, you're going to have better support overall for a longer period of time with autofocus. Like the autofocus difference between the RF mount and the Z mount isn't yet substantial, but that gap is going to get bigger and bigger. You get more customization of that autofocus using the Z mount as well. And I can't imagine that with future RED products coming out, autofocus is going to get closer and closer to what their mirrorless cameras already do. One of my favorite features of the Komodo-X has nothing to do with the KX itself. It has to do with the app that you can get for it on your phone. The app is incredible. It allows you to, yes, monitor the image remotely, just like you can with a few other apps, basically making it an external monitor. But it gives you complete control over every feature inside of the camera and then some. There are actually features in the app that you can't get in the camera. Like if you wanted to do a remote focus pull and specify the time it takes to pull that focus and like a delay between you and starting the focus, multiple points, you can do that via the app. There are 3 different ways to connect the app to the KX. So you can do that. Wired, Wi-Fi using a structure, using the Wi-Fi out of the camera itself. Plus, people use these as trail cams all the time. The former CEO and owner, Jared Land, he had a few of these cameras set up around his place to capture wildlife at night. He would regularly post some of the stuff that he would get off of his Raptor. He's not sitting there by the camera. He's in his home, fired that thing up using a computer somehow, using some protocol, and used it as a trail cam. And finally, one of the biggest, most important features for a wildlife filmmaker to have is pre-record. The RED Komodo-X, depending on resolution, frame rate, and the recording compression that you choose, you can get up to 30 seconds of pre-record on the KX. And I'll dive into that feature a little bit more because I think it's also easy to do, but somewhat hard to understand. So we'll talk about that in the best practices. Speaking of which, we keep talking about gear and why you should use a KX. Well, let's go use it and film some wildlife. I think it's important that we go over the kit so that you can get the best footage you possibly can. Let's just start off with the obvious, this really big freaking zoom lens. I prefer, in just this situation, a zoom over a prime. Almost every other time I'm gonna pick a prime, but for something like this, filming wildlife, I find that a big telephoto zoom is just so much more handy, so much more useful and quick. The lens that I have is the Sigma 150 to 600 in the EF mount. And I got the EF mount because it works on the KX. Not only does it work, I have a Mikey V&D adapter, which makes having like, you know, ND right at your fingertips so nice. And this is like a 95 millimeter front filter thread, so it would have been a pain in the butt to get a filter on there. The lens itself is pretty darn good for what it is. I think I spent less than $1,000 on this lens. It's got IBIS, it's got autofocus. The autofocus is trash, the IBIS is not that great. But it does go all the way down to a 5, like f5 to whatever. I took this lens and paired it with an SL3 and an SL2S a few years ago in Africa for a safari. And I had to manually focus everything because, like I said, the autofocus is trash. But when I was able to nail a shot, it was pretty darn good. It's not the sharpest lens in the entire world, but it's really good. And if you're looking for a cheap telephoto for your KX, this could be a great solution. If you can, if it means saving up a little bit longer, get this monitor. This monitor is the best monitor that there is for the RED Komodo-X. You'd think that when you spend $2,700 on a monitor, it could just at least come with the sun hood, especially a sun hood that is overpriced. It was $100, it's probably worth 25, but it does the job. Beyond that, this is probably the most important bit of kit besides the lens, and that's the tripod. I don't even know if this is the best tripod for wildlife filmmaking, but this is the Sackler with the 75 legs, Flowtech 75 with the Active 8 head. And the reason this thing is just so useful, one, it's fast. It's so fast to deploy. Because of this Active 8 head, it makes leveling a breeze. There's no unscrewing. You just lift this knob, put it into place, let it go, it's locked in. But the head itself pans so damn smoothly. And so when you're tracking like one of the pronghorn out here and it's in like a full gallop and you're trying to keep up with it, it's just so smooth. So that is what we're working with today. You obviously don't need this, but this is what has been working for me. Overall, big zoom lens, monitor that's bright and that's detailed and accurate, a sun hood, and a really good set of legs and an even better head. That's what you want to start with. One thing that I try to do is I almost film everything in ELQ. That is the lowest or the highest compression. It's basically the lowest quality, extra low quality. If I'm gonna drop resolution, or if I'm going to drop or go higher frame rate, you really don't want to film in the ELQ. I would say MQ or HQ, because that's going to eliminate a lot of those compression artifacts. And if there's a lot of detail in the fur like there is now, I've got birds and all of the patches of like mud that's been caked onto his fur, I want to see that detail, and those lower compression ratios are going to give you that. Here's another thing you've probably seen me do, and I'm hitting this button down here. It's actually the record button. What's so cool about the KX compared to like the Raptor is it has programmable record buttons. They're customizable. And so I've got it recorded to two things. One is edge focusing. Because it's so muted and there's so very little contrast, it can be kind of hard to pick up focus. Even with focus peaking, it's kind of hard to see out here. So I use RED's edge focus peaking, which essentially turns this image into black and white, almost like an X-ray, and it lets you see contrast and detail like really well. And so just a half press of this front record button and I get that. The second thing I have it mapped to is a max frame rate. So I will often jump very quickly between 24 frames a second and 80 frames a second. And you can very easily program a max frame rate toggle to that front record button or the side button. So you get up to 4 different customized actions between these two buttons. I also jump between 6K 24 and 4K 120. If I were to do that by hand, it takes a little while, but you can actually create that as a preset. And you can, again, assign it to one of these recordable, customized record buttons, or you can assign it to the user page. Now, I've made a video on this already, so I'll link that down below, but essentially, you have the top screen on the KX, which gives you a video feed, but it's kind of pointless if you've got a monitor out here too. So I suggest turning it into the user pages, which is a bunch of basically a page full of hotkeys, and you get up to 3 pages. So I created a 4K 120 preset. If I want to jump into that, I just tap on the 4K 120 preset and it jumps me over like that. I don't have to do anything on the screen. It's a whole lot faster, and it'll just make your day go by better. Pre-record, what a useful freaking feature. If you don't know how pre-record works, basically when you turn it on, it's recording, but it's not writing that footage to the card. And like I said earlier, depending on frame rate, compression, resolution, you can do up to 30 seconds on the KX, which is so much for a pre-record. What's happening is I turn on pre-record, it's going, it shows up as like a yellow bar, almost like I'm shooting a time lapse. Yellow bar is up, and then when the action happens, I hit record and it starts recording. But it takes that however long you assigned it for, let's say 5 seconds, it takes that 5 seconds before you hit record and writes that onto the card. And so if you find yourself missing action, pre-record is just a godsend when it comes to wildlife filmmaking. How do you set it up? It's super simple. You're just gonna go into menu, go into project settings, come down into pre-record. And now if you hit OK right here, pre-record is just going to start. But if you want it to wait until you actually hit a record button, then you would toggle on start on record. If you toggle on continuous, it's going to constantly go even after you end a clip. If not, it's going to be for a single clip use. So if you're going to be out shooting a lot and you know you're going to want pre-record on everything, then put it on continuous. Playback duration is simply how much of that pre-record do you want included in playback when you want to watch a clip played back. And then finally, there's just frames to record. And that's just simply how many frames are in that playback recorded. Well, there you go. I hope you enjoyed the video. The RED Komodo-X is an incredibly powerful tool when it comes to wildlife filmmaking, and I hope it improves yours as well. Really, that's all I wanted to accomplish with this video, is to inspire you to get out and shoot. And if you do decide to get out and film wildlife, just make sure you respect the spot that you're in and the animals, because they're not always going to be here. Well, thanks again for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit the like button and consider subscribing. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. You can cancel at any time. But thanks again for your support. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.